Hello again. As I'm recording this, the weather outside is absolutely vile, so it's the sort of day I don't really want to go outside, just want to stay inside, play the guitar, maybe just experiment a little bit. So with that in mind, I thought for this scale of the week we'll look at the chromatic scale. Now, I can guarantee that this scale has more notes in it than any other scale that you already know, but having said that, it's probably the easiest ones to learn because it looks like this. So here in PhatPhish we can see the C chromatic scale. Now basically the chromatic scale is every note that's available to us within the octave, so a note on every fret, on every string. So the notes within the C chromatic scale go from C to C, taking in every available note. If you took the D chromatic scale, you've got exactly the same note names, but the starting point, the finish point is D rather than C. Now the chromatic scale is something that you might already use for sort of like practice patterns. It comes in quite useful for things like picking exercises, things like and that sort of thing, which you might think of. They're not particularly musical. They're more of a like a mathematical way, just using every fret. When you're exercising, you're picking technique. But I want to look at how we can use the chromatic scale more musically. Now, normally you think about playing notes from a scale, that relates to the key in some way, and those are what are known as diatonic notes. Chromatic notes are notes that lie from the outside of the key, lie within the chromatic scale. So if you have a look at, say, for argument's sake, at C major, and then you look at the C chromatic scale, when you look at introducing the chromatic notes into your playing, you've got these extra notes to play with. Now I wouldn't suggest that you use these as very strong notes within a melody, but they are useful as passing notes, what you sometimes call a grace note, a note that you'll just pass through going from one diatonic note to the other. So if you consider something like the natural minor scale, so an A natural minor, got A, B, C, D, E, F, G and A. Now the E flat doesn't belong to the key of A natural minor, but we can include it when we're playing melody lines in the key of A natural minor, as long as we don't emphasize it too much. Now that sounds a little bit wrong because I'm finishing on that non-diatonic note, but earlier on sounded okay because I was just passing through. So that's something you can experiment with. Look at notes that don't belong within a key and see if you can include them just as passing notes. Because don't forget, you're only ever going to be one semitone away from a note that is in the key. So if it sounds wrong, you've only got to go up one semitone or down one semitone to recover it and get something that is diatonic and probably sounds a little bit better. You need to experiment, but that's something I always encourage. I like to just give you an idea or give you a concept and then get you to go away and look at ways you can exploit that yourself, rather than just me showing you licks or whatever for you to copy slavishly. Now, this is an idea you can use with chords as well. If you think about chord progression, let's play something in the key of G major. I've got a G major chord, A minor, B minor, C major and D major. So you can just play that ascending chord progression using diatonic chords. Now every chord, every note there belongs to the key of G major. But what I could do to get from G major up to D major is just to play that major chord shape and just move it up a semitone at a time. Phrase it a little bit differently because I'm going to have more chords there, but you can come up with something. Now it doesn't sound particularly wrong. It's got little bits of tension in there because you're going from chords with notes that don't belong to the key in them there, but you're starting from a strong position in that you're starting on a chord that is diatonic, you're starting on the one chord, and you're finishing on a chord that's strong, it's diatonic, it's the 5 chord of the key. Things in between, like I say, with the grace notes in the scales, when you're introducing little chromaticisms and outside notes, you're passing through them, you're not resting on them and emphasising the outside note, you're just going through using outside notes to add a little bit of colour. So that's something else you can experiment with. So like I said, the chromatic scale, you've got every note on the fingerboard at your disposal. To exploit the chromatic scale well, you need to know what key you're playing in, what scale you're using, so you know what notes you have got, and then by the process of elimination you know what notes aren't in the key, the notes from the chromatic scale, and then you can think about introducing those for a little bit of colour. Okay, so there's plenty there for you to experiment with. I'll probably do another tutorial sometime talking a little bit more about scale combination, which is perhaps a little bit more structured approach to introducing outside notes or merging different scales together, and ways you can exploit that idea. But for now, just run with the idea, look at the chromatic scale, look at those outside notes and think about how you can incorporate them into your playing to add a little bit of colour and a little bit of flavour, and make your playing and your lead lines and your chord progressions a little bit more interesting. Okay, so something to experiment with, have fun, and I'll see you next time in another video. Bye for now.